You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
We're live.
I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
All right, it is time for Happy Hour. It's the Man Cave Happy Hour, whiskey, cigar, spirits, the stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Well, I'm Matt Fox. Still, I am Matt Fox. Yes.
always the Matt Fox.
Always Matt Fox.
And Matt, a special Man Cave Happy Hour today. Like things to be evergreen, but celebrating because one of our favorite things, bourbon. And it's National Bourbon Day.
Yay!
So June 14th, we're recording this on June 14th. It is National Bourbon Day. Having some fun on live Facebook. And if we're doing bourbon, we got to go to Kentucky and we got to tag in our friends, the Kentucky Bourbon Boys and girls, helping us out today, celebrating National Bourbon Day. And Tim and Laura are with us from the Kentucky Bourbon Boys, and things are getting a little back to normal everywhere, and the trail's opening up a little bit. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of inquiries, a lot of people looking to get back out there. I think the first few calls we had were from some healthcare professionals ready to just get out and see something different, and they said, we don't even care what's open. We'll be down for whatever. We just want to get a change of scenery. So definitely seeing a lot of people just kind of wanting to get out and about.
Yeah. So it is nice. Things are getting back to a little bit of normalcy. We're still all recording from our kitchens though, and we'll be back in the Podcast Detroit studios before we know it. So the plan for today, National Bourbon Day, what we were going to do was everybody kind of pick a bourbon that is a favorite or something they really like, and just kind of say what they like about it, right? And so I was kind of thinking about it. So I was thinking about what bourbon would I pick? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's do something classic. Let's do a classic one. I'm like, all right, so what is the oldest distillery in the United States? And I tried to look that up, and apparently there is no answer to that question. That is almost an unanswerable question. There's
a lot of debate about that.
And that's the thing. So there are about 10 distilleries that have a very long heritage, and so it's depending on how you count it and where you count it, and is it continuous? Is it one family? Is it one company? Is it one name? And there's so many people claim, but there's 10 like very heritage distilleries. So some of the oldest ones in the States. Buffalo Trace, one of my favorites, one of my absolute favorites. And actually, Buffalo Trace this year was named Distillery of the Year, right? Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
So that's always good. That's one of my standbys. Burke's Distillery. Well, Buffalo Trace, where's the story on Buffalo Trace? 1755. Thought the oldest remaining building on the site. 1792 is the oldest remaining building in the Buffalo Trace facility there. So 1755, Burke's Distillery, famous for, Matt, do you know what Burke's is famous for?
How do you spell Burke's? Berks?
You spell it Maker's Mark.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's a trick question, Matt. I'm being mean for no apparent reason. But that one going back to 1773. And it is the one that's recognized by the Guinness Book of World Record as the oldest bourbon distillery in the world. It became a national landmark in 1980. And it was the first distillery in the U.S. to be given the status of a national historic landmark. Others have been given that honor since, but it was the first one back in 1980 to be a historic landmark. Corsair, 2 distilleries. There's one in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And then the Pushing Brothers in 1921. They have their tasting rooms and gift shops opened up back then. So that's been around for a long time. George Washington, the Mount Vernon Distillery.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an old one, 1797,
Really?
going back on his Scottish plantation there. His Scottish plantation manager, James Anderson, he said, let me build you a distillery. So it's like Washington started making spirits. High West Distillery.
I don't remember seeing
going back.
I don't remember seeing the distillery there. Huh.
Yeah. You spent time in DC, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember seeing a distillery on his
fairly
plantation.
new. It's fairly
Is
new.
it?
Yeah, well, you know, if you did the tour, you know where the corn crib is down there. I believe
Yeah.
they built it down that way and then started making or releasing the George Washington Mount Vernon bourbon just a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah, this is going back to the 80s when I lived in
Oh,
Maryland.
All right, so High West Distillery, going back to in Utah, the first legal distillery in Utah in 1870, and then Jack Daniel's, right, one of the standards, 1884. No, its present location in 1884. When did it start? I don't know, but Jack Daniel's, that's one of the old contenders as well. Montgomery Distillery, that's another one of the old ones, and Old Prentice. St. George Spirits, and Town, is that Grist Mill Lane Distillery is about 220 years old. So there's some old ones out there. How many of those old ones are on the hit list for the Kentucky Bourbon Boys when you're taking people around? All of them?
Of course, Buffalo Trace and Burke's, which is makers, but then you got Beam in there too. Beam's been around forever, and I think there's a Beam working at every distillery in Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's just they all argue over who's the oldest.
Right.
You know, Elijah Craig has a claim to be the oldest too, and you know, Heaven Hill makes that. So. There's just nobody really knows.
That was going to be one of my guesses. Was one of my choices for today was the Elijah Craig, because I love that one too. so many things to choose from. But Tim, put you on the spot. So do you have a favorite? And did you have a favorite? Because I said if you have a favorite. What's your absolute favorite, and then what's the absolute favorite that you have on hand?
My absolute favorite is Elmer T. Lee.
Okay,
and that's Buffalo Trace, and he was a master distiller a good while ago, and they made a mash bill in his honor, and it's so hard to find, and it's so excellent. It's just impossible now to find it. So I have one unopened bottle, and I'm afraid to open it. I don't know what will happen. So that one is in the shelf over there, but I'm just avoiding it as long as I can. Actually, I can find another bottle. So right now in my glass, I've got Four Roses single barrel. And I think, Matt, you were holding up a Four Roses bottle, weren't you?
That's where I'm going today. Yes, sir.
The small batch is great, and the single barrel is excellent.
Yeah. No, even Four Roses, they were talking about, they claim that they started in the 1860s themselves.
Yeah.
It was Paul W. Jones, I believe, or Paul Jones Jr. Sorry, Paul Jones Jr. He was selling whiskey and tobacco in Louisville, in Kentucky, and he trademarked the brand Four Roses. And I guess there was somebody with the last name of Rose that started the business, so that's where the branding comes from, with Rose. Yeah. So fun stuff.
So that there's a lot of stories about where Four Roses came from, and there's a love story involved there, and a couple of other stories. And again, we don't really know. But I just saw 2 days ago. There's a new distillery being built down near Lebanon, Kentucky, and it's the Dant family distillery. Really? And J.W. Dant, it's called Log Still Distillery, and it's because J.W. Dant came up with the idea that, back in the day, they used what they had, and he hollowed out a log and used that to let his mash ferment. and then put it into a still. And so hence the name of that distillery now is Log Still. And Dance in our family line. So my mother's great-great-grandfather was J.W.'s brother, J.B.
Oh, okay.
J.B. was at Gethsemane Distillery, not far from Bardstown, and their premium bourbon was Yellowstone. Well, that has come back now, and they make that at Limestone Branch Distillery in Lebanon. And that's a couple of Bean brothers there that run that place. And their grandmother was a Dant. So they've got a big display about the Dant family and then another one all about the beans in their distillery. So it's pretty cool to see that old name coming back being made
That's
there.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Looking forward to it.
So Yellowstone, Matt, have we done Yellowstone? I know I've seen it.
We have not done it yet. We have seen it at a few spots that we've been to, but we have not done Yellowstone yet.
Right. Yeah, that's yeah. So I like the bottles that they're bringing back because we're going to talk about a comeback over here with the Old Scout momentarily. But all right. So well, there you go. So first one up there, Four Roses. Which Four Roses in particular is that?
Mine is
There's a single barrel. Yeah.
Okay. So cheers.
Yeah, Tim has a single barrel.
Cheers, Tim. Happy birthday. I like that.
Matt, you've got the small batch.
I'm all
Yes,
spilling.
I have the
myself.
small batch.
All right. So, Laura, what about you? What is your favorite, and what was your favorite on hand?
So I like to think my palate has refined itself since we've started the business. At the beginning, I was Larceny was a favorite, which it's still a good mixing bourbon, and I think I mix that a lot more than anything else. But have just kind of branched out and started trying different things, and as we kind of explored the trail, getting ready to start the business, and since I've got a couple of favorites. Both I have on hand, but one I'm drinking tonight. I got Woodford Double Oaked is current first place. Get that whenever I can.
Yep.
It's just so smooth, and I'm more of the sweet bourbon type drinker, and sometimes the fire gets me, so that's a good one for that. But tonight I'm drinking Blade and Bow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a somewhat newer, is it not? Is that a yeah?
Yeah, they make it out of Bullet Stitzelweller here in town. And so when you go through their tours over there, you do you taste the different Bullet, the Bullet 10-year, the Rye, IW Harper, and then you get Blade and Bow as well.
Wow.
And it's one of my favorites currently.
I like it. Well, there you go. So, cheers to the Blade and Bow.
Yeah. That's something we haven't done the Blade and Bow yet either.
That's another one. Our list is growing. It's
it keeps getting
longer
and longer.
Of things we got to do.
Well, we're talking about the history. There's a lot of history at that distillery, at that Stitzelweller distillery, and they actually recently just opened a tour that they do where you can kind of go in and see the original still house from 1930s.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And they've glassed off part of the wall, so you can see where, like, I think there was one day they got kind of snowed in, and they drew a line of how high the snow was and wrote on the walls, and then wrote different parts of the recipe on the wall and stuff, and it's really cool.
Nice.
I like that. Yeah. So the Blade and Bow, the parent company on that is
Bullet.
Okay. So all right. And that's part of when you guys when you take somebody over to Bullet, what kind of experience is somebody going to have if they wanted to go on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail? And when they get to the Bullet, I know what Buffalo Trace is big. They got a lot of stuff going on. But what's happening over at Bullet?
Well,
there's actually two.
Okay.
Dad, if you want to take that on.
Well, the main thing about Bullet Stitzelweller is it opened or reopened in 1935. On Derby Day, and that's one of the stories you hear as soon as you pull in. And I tell people, if they want to go to a distillery in Louisville, that's the only one you can go in a rick house. So the rest of them don't have the rick houses on site.
Oh.
But this one is on the west side of town, and when you pull in, you don't even know you're in the city. and it looks and feels just like you're out in the state at one of the old name distilleries. There are rick houses everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's really a beautiful setting, and the visitor center is really nice. They've done a super job on it. But I think the coolest thing for me when you pull in is there's a guardhouse. Mm-hmm. And the gate's down, and this little guy comes out and greets you. And do you know who he is, Jamie?
No, no.
Oh man,
it sounds fabulous.
Oh, you meet Perry.
Yeah,
and Perry is he worked there 40 plus years at that distillery, and retired, but still comes in every day and greets every visitor at the guardhouse. And he tells a little story and introduces himself, asks the guests where they're from, tells them a few tips about things, and then says, if you get bored with the tour, come down here and see me and I'll tell you some real stories. And when we do a tour there, I go down and hang out in the shack with Perry because he can tell stories all month.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rite of passage. All our guys go get selfies with him.
Oh,
nice. When we go down there. So yeah, he's a great dude. He's the best part about it.
Oh,
and then Bullet Distilling actually opened another distillery out in Shelbyville last year.
Yeah,
I think it was. That's been blowing up.
Oh, they're growing. Yeah.
Well, they're owned by Diageo now, so there's a huge production facility out there. And they've moved a lot of the production out of the Stitzel-Weller plant, and they're doing experimental and really small batch bourbons there now. So when you see it, it's a very different tour from what it was just a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's just a lot of history. I mean, Pappy worked there, and he was the master distiller there for a long time. And Perry tells stories about Pappy. Mm-hmm. And so it's just fascinating to hear his stories.
That's great.
That's what we need. These are making notes, because these are the things that when we come down, mm-hmm. So Bullet will definitely be on our list.
Well, I was in there with Perry one day, and one of the other guys working there said, "Tell him what you did in the war." And Perry didn't really want to tell me. So I asked him, and he said, "Well, I was a pilot in Vietnam."
Oh.
I said, "Oh, you were?" And I said, "What did you fly?" And he said, "Everything." And I said, "Really?" And the guy said, "Yeah, tell him who you flew." And he said, "Well, I was General Westmoreland's pilot."
Wow.
And so he said he'd come in, and wherever he wanted to go, that's where I took him. And so he's from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, right down the road from Wild Turkey, and worked with Pappy at Stitzel-Weller all those years, and then went to Vietnam and served his country and flew Westmoreland. Mm-hmm. So he's got tons of fascinating stories.
Yeah, he's on the list of people we're going to introduce y'all to when you come visit.
Yeah,
absolutely. Jay, we got to put our calendars together because we just have to. It's
got a week at least.
Yeah. I'm off for the summer, so it's like it's game on.
I'm staring at you, Mr. Flanagan.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking on this evening, Jamie?
Oh, well, say I was so torn, right? I wanted to go with, and I figured, all right, I'll go with something classic. And one of the first bourbons that I really, really enjoyed was Buffalo Trace, and it's I go to it all the time. It's a standard.
That seems to be your daily drinker. Almost.
Yeah, it's a standard on the shelf, and so that's I kind of just wanted to go there. It's good stuff. And then like Eagle Rare, it's supposed to be a step up. I actually like Buffalo Trace, and again, it's what you like personally. I like the Buffalo Trace over the Eagle Rare. It edges it out for me, even though it's a little higher price tag on the Eagle Rare. I don't know why, but it's just maybe it's. Because we hung out with the hockey dads, and it was a hockey dad thing. When my boy, he's like wrapping up college now, but when he was in high school and younger than that, so the hockey dads at the Buffalo Trace would kind of be the thing in between periods, running out to the car for a quick intermission. The dads were out there, and that was kind of one of the ones we picked up on. And so maybe it's part of that nostalgia and that fun. of it. But I picked that today because it was always a good celebratory one. And if we're celebrating National Bourbon Day, I want to celebrate with a tried and true friend and one of the classic ones, right? Because again, it could be one of the oldest distilleries. It is one of the oldest, could be the oldest, depending on how you look at it. So that's I went with the Buffalo Trace, and I just like it. It's not too sweet, not too overpowering.
It's a great drink, and it's good just like you're doing it there on ice or neat or in a good cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to go back a little bit. We did one man cave. We were at a chili cook-off, and Jamie had the Buffalo Trace, and we actually made a mixed drink with the Buffalo Trace and had it with the chili because it mixed so incredibly well. It was really odd how that worked out, but that's where my mind goes to when I think about Buffalo Trace is that experience I had with food. So anytime I have Buffalo Trace, for some reason, I want to have chili at the same time.
Chili.
Yeah, it was a nice cocktail. So it was just club soda, and then the Buffalo Trace, and then lemon. We did lemon. Lemon.
We just were seeing something the other day. That's what they used to call a highball.
Okay. Yeah. I forget what because it was a summertime event. It was late summer, early fall for this chili cook-off, and but it was a nice day and we were outside, and so we wanted to do a cocktail, and so we looked that one up, and then I was like, all right. Yeah. So
it was the Rockabully chili cook-off.
Rockabully chili cook-off. Yeah, the Detroit Bulldog Rescue. We do an event with them every year, helping raise money for bulldog rescues. Because each bulldog that comes in, the bulldogs are so they need a lot of TLC and medical attention. And most of them have some sort of respiratory issue. So, so it's like every bulldog that comes in the rescue, it faces like at least $600 in medical bills just to get it to a point where it can be adopted out or fostered out. So we like to try to help them out when we can. That's coming up again soon. So the cook-off is coming up again soon. We're probably going to do it at our podcast studios in the hangar there in Northville.
Good. That's where it should always be. So
yes, we're looking forward to getting back into the Podcast Detroit studios, Northville, and doing that. But one of the favorite, because I've had a lot, but one of my favorites that I've had was an Elijah Craig, but it was a store pick and it was barrel proof. And it was so good. So I really like Elijah Craig is one of the ones that I'll do on the regular. But that store pick and that barrel proof, that's the kind of the ups and downs with the store picks and special, because once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh my God, yes, that was magic. It's like, well, that magic is gone. You know, and they can try to replicate it. It's like, okay, well, we did it, and we did this stave, and you know, when they do their pick, and you could try to replicate it, but it's I don't know if it would ever be quite the same. Right. There's a lot of barrel picks I've noticed with the Woodford Reserve, the double oaked. Pretty much almost every store I go into, even our big chain grocery store here in Michigan is Kroger. Matt, what do you like to call them?
Oh, the K. Roger? Yeah.
K. Roger, yeah. Kroger. Do you guys have Kroger down by you? Is it Kroger? Okay. So the Krogers, our Krogers have had really upped their spirit game in the bourbon and the whiskey game, and they do barrel picks. And so the Kroger has their own store pick of the Woodford double oaked.
We have not seen that here. They've got plenty of bourbons, but I haven't seen a store pick or anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Our Krogers, and well, I'm in a fancy pants kind of neighborhood. Yeah. Matt and I live in the snotty part of town.
Well, I'm on the other side of the track, so he's on the hoity-toity part.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the really snotty part of town. He's in the kind of snotty part of town. Oh yeah, but. So that was one of my absolute favorite of all time was that single barrel proof Elijah Craig. It was from one of our good friend Tony Batu at the Wine Garden.
Wine Garden, yeah.
He does a ton of picks. Big Tony, and he's like this tall. He's amazing, but he's an amazing human being, and he does great picks. So yeah, that was one of my favorite of all time. So what about you, Matthew? Oh, well, hey, cheers, right? We didn't cheers.
Yeah. Cheers up to the Buffalo Trace. Yeah, absolutely.
And my mom's watching me. Everybody say hi to my mom. Say hi, Mom.
Hi,
Mom.
She's only fallen asleep twice.
There's no pressure.
What's
zero
Mom's
pressure.
favorite bourbon?
Yeah, what's your favorite?
Yeah, what's
Mom,
Mom's
what's
favorite
your what's your favorite bourbon? She's a killer at Texas Hold'em poker, but are you a bourbon mom? Do you like well, I would never say no to it. Mom's more into the wines and the vodka drinks with Colleen.
Gotcha.
So there we go.
Well, you reminded me, talking about that, Elijah Craig. One time I had a bottle of 1792 from Bourbon.
Yeah.
And I opened it, poured it, and took a drink, and just stopped and just stopped in my tracks. And it was like somebody put a drop of honey in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the best bottle of bourbon I've ever had or tasted. And I didn't track down the lot number or anything to see if I could get more bottles of it. And I wish I had, because it was unbelievable how good it was. And one of the smoothest, nicest bourbons that I've ever tasted. So it was, and I haven't had anything close to it since. And the 1792 is good, but never had a bottle like that one.
So was it just something off the shelf, or was it a special?
It's off the shelf.
Right. Oh, okay. But and they do sometimes have a different profile depending on the time of year and the the past
house and
the past winter, and
Right.
yeah, you'll get some variations. Yeah, that's interesting. So 1792, and that's a reasonably priced bottle usually. That's
they've really added to their line. I've got one here. It's called their Sweet Wheat. It's really hard to find. So it's wheated bourbon, and it's excellent. I've got about half of it left. I'm moving that one along. But they're foolproof, and their bottle and bond are really good. A lot of people argue that the bottle and bond is the best one of the batch. So they've really come out with some really nice new expressions. We're waiting for the Rickhouse Collapse bottle.
Yeah.
Come out yet, but we figure it'll be sometime soon. It'll be pricey.
Is there one in the works?
There's bound to be. I mean,
yeah,
that's an opportunity they can't pass up.
Sure. Yeah. Salvaged from the pond. Drink it if you dare.
Exactly.
There's got to be. I can see the stickers now, right? You can. Yeah. So Buffalo Trace, actually, because it is a staple. It's a standard, but it's been hard to find in Michigan lately. It was sold out because of during the pandemic-y, store shelves are empty and distribution being messed up. So just a standard Buffalo Trace. I was talking to the guy at Kroger, and I was like standing there looking at the bourbon section, and he's like, "Can I help you with anything?" I go, "Yeah, just load it all in the cart. Let's go." And he's like, I go, just looking for something unique, maybe. And he's like, "Well, this is unique." And he pointed out the Woodford Double Oak that they had, and there was another one. Crap, I forget what it was, but he said these are two new. And they're two new things. And he goes, we have Buffalo Trace in. He goes, we haven't had it in a month and a half. He goes, we just haven't gotten a delivery of it any of our stores. So it was just the demand. And he goes, there's no. I go, well, what was the problem? He's like, there's no rhyme or reason to it really. It's just they didn't have the cases to give to us, so we didn't get it. So so it's been hard to find in Michigan. So I was actually out. I had to go buy a new bottle. So I was glad, and they didn't have it. I was at Kroger picking up kebabs to do for Mom. She just got back from Florida, so we had her over, and they didn't have it at Kroger, so I had to go down to our buddy at Keiko's Market and pick it up. Our friend Joe Keikos at Keiko's Market. I had to get it from him. So yeah.
Because he always has something there.
He's always got something amazing.
He's got something.
I got something amazing from him that I'm going to talk about after Matt tells us what's in his glass.
Well, we had talked about it earlier. I one of my favorites, and there's a reason why Four Roses is one of my favorites. It's one of my go-tos, and I'm doing the small batch tonight. But anything Four Roses, the single barrel, just Four Roses by itself, the yellow label, I actually enjoy most of the Four Roses that they bring out. But I have to share a story with you about Four Roses and myself and what happened in March of this year.
Now, I
in
told you that
Mexico.
story to tell you this.
To tell you this story. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
I was in New Mexico on going for an annual ski trip, and we were supposed to be there from Saturday to a Saturday. It's like the last week of March, and we got there on Saturday all the way down to New Mexico. Flew into Albuquerque, and on our way to the resort for the ski resort, we stopped and we all got our groceries for the week. And I happened to pick up a bottle of Four Roses because that is one of my favorites. And get there, I crack it, I unpack, having a great time. Sunday morning, go up onto the mountain for my first run of the day, get down to the bottom, and one of our people that's on the trip, he says, "Hey, did you hear the rumor? They're shutting down today at 5:00. We'd only been skiing for half an hour, and we just found out they were shutting the resort down. And we were supposed to be there from Saturday to Saturday. So here I am with a full bottle of Four Roses that I have to finish because I'm leaving it there at the condo.
Right.
So I pretty much went around the entire trip, everyone that was on the trip, and poured everybody a shot of Four Roses.
Nice.
So it's one of the things about bourbon is you want to share, with people, and that's when the stories start to come out. So, it's all about the experience that you have while you're drinking it, not what's always inside the bottle. It's just what's going on around you while you are drinking it. So that's why I really gravitate towards the Four Roses more than anything else.
So
Just
I'm
because
sure everybody was glad to see you coming around with the bottle, sharing it, right?
Oh, you have no idea. But they're looking at me like, "Hey, I got stuff I have to drink too. Here, have some of mine. Here, have some of mine." So
It led to
was
a good party.
it was a messy Monday night, let me tell you, because we all had to get up early Tuesday, and nobody felt good on Tuesday morning.
I bet. I bet.
It was fun.
It's funny. It's my mom she I should set a mic up over by her, but she handed me a note saying, "Is Four Roses a bourbon?" She can't hear it. I had the headphones off and blaring so she could hear it, but I put them back on and so she could take a nap because we were so excited. No. As we had dinner, we fed her. She takes a nap. That's what happens. It's not the podcast, right? You didn't fall asleep on the podcast, right, Mom? Yeah? No. All right. But Matt, you were talking about your Four Roses, and she passed me a note. She says, "Is Four Roses a bourbon?" Because my dad drank that often back in the 40s, throughout the 40s and the 50s. So, yes, it is a bourbon, Mother. It's and actually, because we all picked our own, and that's the one Matt and Tim both picked different variations of it, but they both picked a Four Roses, yes.
That's very cool.
So
thanks for sharing.
So Jaji, he was a Four Roses guy. I was too young to steal any off the shelf. So, yeah. I love it, but it's about, sharing an experience, and National Bourbon Day, wherever anybody is, it doesn't have to be National Bourbon Day. It's always National Bourbon Day if you got some bourbon in the cupboard. It's just a celebration of the community and the togetherness that people can share. We appreciate you guys doing that and hanging out.
No problem. I wore my USA Bourbon Drinking Team shirt as well for the occasion.
I like it.
Ready to go.
That's for sale. Where can I get it?
Kentucky for Kentucky, a local company that does a lot of bourbon related shirts and glasses and stuff. They're really cool. But
I got a couple bourbon designs up my sleeve for the Wearing Funny website. I'm gonna have Sam try to create a couple things for us. We have some t-shirts for the podcast that we sell on wearingfunny.com, and I got a couple fun bourbon ones up my sleeve.
All right,
so
Wearing Funny.
I'll let you know when that goes live. But all right, so Keiko's. I mentioned Keiko's party store, Keiko's Market over here in the Metro Detroit area, and follow him on the Facebook, and we're friends. And I buy way too much stuff there, and he posted about a bottle, and I was like, I was gonna do that for this tasting, but I'm gonna save this when Matthew and I can hang out, and we'll taste it together. We'll crack it and we'll taste it together. But I'm just gonna tease you about what's in this bottle because I think it's pretty interesting. And if everybody's in Metro Detroit, they could do this. There's a classic bottle. They released this a single barrel. It's like the Porsche re-releasing a 911.
Got it.
It's Smooth Ambler is reissued Old Scout bourbon. Do you guys know? So do you know about the Old Scout? Are you guys familiar with Old Scout?
Well, a buddy of mine, that's his favorite, and he stops when he drives through West Virginia and picks up a bottle, and he grabbed an 11-year for me.
Oh.
So this guy is 5 years old, and this is a hand selected by Joe in the Caicos market. So it's only available there. It's a single barrel, and it's coming in at 56.8%. So that's what, 100 and something proof. Don't make me do math. It was my impression there would be no math. All right, so it's
58%, so $1.16. Yeah.
So it's you're the math guy, Matt. There you go.
There you go. Hey. Hi.
Well, what did he tell you about that bottle?
All right, so it's a single barrel. It's cask strength, coming in at cask strength. It's non-chilled filtered. It's the original Old Scout recipe. So they're going back to the original Old Scout recipe. And they aged for 5 years. That was the original deal with Old Scout. So it's back to the original age. It's sourced, the juices are sourced through MGP. But this is the first and only Smooth Ambler release in 2020 in Michigan. So this is the only store pick, the only Smooth Ambler release in Michigan, special release for Michigan for 2020. So Caicos Market is the place to get it. It's a high rye recipe. So it's classic. Let me see if it tells what the mash bill is. He did not put the mash bill on his posting, and he did not put it on the bottle. So we're gonna have to pull in Joe and before we crack this open. But it's a higher rye content. So there you go. So that's something we're looking forward to doing. It's kind of celebrating National Bourbon Day, teasing you with one of those.
All right, thank you.
Good.
You.
Be curious to hear what you think of it when you do open it.
Yeah, I'm torn. Well, I'm already into this one, and I might have to drive my mom home, so I can't do more than one.
Very responsible, Mr. Flanagan.
Look, kid, mom will drive. She'll tuck me in for a nap when we get there. That would be a good thing. Oh my gosh.
So actually, I was just looking up a little bit about National Bourbon Day, and we had talked a little about Elijah Craig earlier, and I was just reading this in regard, and it was on nationaltoday.com, and they were talking about Elijah Craig, and Elijah Craig thinks he was a big piece of the entire bourbon puzzle. So in the late 1780s, Elijah Craig was using old fish barrels to store his spirits, right? But not surprisingly, of course, fish flavored wood did not really enhance the whiskey's taste. I was going to say it really doesn't. So what he did is he started purifying the white oak barrels by charring them instead. And then he'd stamp the barrels with the county of origin that they're from. In this case, it was Bourbon County, and they would put them on a small boat, and they'd go down the river for a 3 month little trip there. But during that 3 months, the charred oak and the 3 month travel time combined to mellow the whiskey and give it a smooth oaky flavor. All of that. So that's how Elijah Craig really came to be, is from fish barrels, but charred.
Yeah. So. No, and it's because it went in clear, and then they got it downriver, and they were opening it up, and they're like, "Oh, we wrecked it."
Yeah,
right. It's not clear. We broke it.
It went from Kentucky down to New Orleans. That was why it took so long. Yeah.
One of the best fumbles ever.
So, what do you do on National Bourbon Day? Well, you mix up a cocktail with your bourbon, or like we all did today. Looks like we all did it neat, either with some ice. Everyone's different in that regard. And then have a tasting. Invite friends over and do a tasting and what have you. So, celebrate National Bourbon Day.
Celebrate your friends. So,
yes,
and again,
celebrate. You
guys, we appreciate the Kentucky Bourbon Boys coming in and saying, "Hey, we like saying hi." So,
appreciate you having us.
Appreciate it. We're itching to make a little summer trip, so we'll come down and have some fun. We're looking to hanging out in person.
Well, just so you have a little bit of background for that, of course, with the virus, everything's opening up slowly, and a handful, and I mean a handful, are opening up in June. Buffalo Trace is supposed to open on July 1st. Woodford is opening on August 1st.
Wow. Okay.
And then a lot of them we still don't have any information from yet. So we don't know who's going to be open when exactly. And with the ones that are opening, most of them are saying things like, all of the, PPE stuff and masks and so on. But they're also limiting the size of the tour groups and the number of tours they offer during the day. So they have to have about 1/3 capacity inside their buildings at the most. So they're, in Buffalo Trace will have a Saturday with 2,500 people come through. And that building has been expanded, and we haven't seen it yet. During all this, they took the visitor center and blew it apparently out to the back where their bottling line used to be. And so it's supposed to be a lot bigger, but even then the capacity is still going to be limited. So, it's going to be a bit before they're back up to what they used to do.
Right.
We just don't know how long that's going to take. But if people get in the car and drive to Kentucky, they're going to have a really challenging time finding things that are open, especially the ones they want. And so you want to check before you make that trip. And
call us before you do it.
Call us, look at the websites, and see what the availability is. But it's just really limited at first here, especially.
Well, that makes you guys even just a little bit more valuable because you have the inside track of what's open, what's not, how to get from one to the next quickly and efficiently, because they're not like next door to each other,
No.
So,
You with country roads with no shoulder, and you're drinking bourbon and then driving those unfamiliar, it's not a good idea.
Yeah. Leave the driving to us. I like it. Oh,
Tim and Laura, cannot thank you enough for the camaraderie tonight, and just celebrating and sharing a dram with you guys. And I got you guys in my thoughts all the time. As things start to open back up and people are starting to call and schedule their tours. I'm very excited for you guys as we start to open back up. So thank you.
Signs of hope, so thank you. We appreciate that.
We always like talking bourbon.
Yeah. Right on. All right. So thanks for hanging out. Happy National Bourbon Day and cheers.